You shouldn't have to do birthdays alone. Can we join you? You made this for me because nobody we should be alone on their birthday. Paralyzed single mom sat alone at her birthday cake until a single dad said, "Can we join you?" The restaurant had been her husband's idea once, 3 years ago, before the accident, before the wheelchair, before the version of her life that she now lived inside like a house she hadn't chosen. Daniel had made a reservation at Harbor Table every year for her birthday. The same corner booth, the same candle, and whatever dessert she ordered. The same way he'd reach across the table and hold both her hands and say without irony, without embarrassment, that she was the best thing that had ever happened to him. Daniel was gone now, not dead, which was its own complicated grief, but gone. He had left 14 months after the accident. He had said carefully and with what she believed was genuine regret, that he hadn't signed up for this, that he loved her, but that love had its limits, that he hoped she understood. She had nodded, she had not cried until he was out the door. Her name was Claire Hendricks. She had a spinal cord injury, the T6 vertebrae that left her paralyzed from the chest down. A one-bedroom apartment with a ramp her brother had built on a weekend 2 summers ago. A part-time job doing bookkeeping remotely for a small architecture firm. And a birthday cake she had ordered for herself from the bakery 3 blocks from her apartment because she had decided firmly and deliberately that she was not going to spend her birthday pretending it wasn't her birthday. She had gotten herself to Harbor Table alone. She had transferred into the chair at her usual table, not the corner booth that was gone now, taken by a family of 4 who were laughing about something. And she had ordered a glass of wine and waited for the server to bring the cake she had called ahead about. She had not told anyone she was coming. Her sister had invited her to a family dinner, but Claire had said she had plans, which was technically true. Her friend Marissa had offered to come into the city, but Claire had said she was fine. And she just wanted a quiet evening, which was partially true. What was entirely true was that she did not know how to let people see her like this on a day that used to mean something. So she sat alone. The cake arrived, white frosting for candles, a small chocolate script that said happy birthday, and the handwriting of whoever worked the morning shift at the bakery. The server lit the candles and smiled at her with a particular careful kindness that Claire had learned to recognize. The slightly softened eyes, the extra gentleness, the look people gave her when they felt sorry and didn't know what to do with it. "Thank you," Claire said, the way she always said it. Warm enough to put them at ease. Practiced enough that it cost her almost nothing anymore. The server left. Claire looked at the 4 candles. She did not make a wish. She had tried that last year and it had felt dishonest. The restaurant moved around her the way restaurants do. Forks scraping plates. A child laughing 2 tables over. Soft jazz coming from somewhere she couldn't see. The low, warm murmur of people who had come here with other people. She picked up her wine glass. She told herself this was fine. This was a good thing she was doing for herself. She had gotten dressed. She had done her hair. She had come to the restaurant she and Daniel used to love. And she was sitting here with a birthday cake and a glass of wine, and she was not disappearing. She was still here. She just wished very quietly and without letting herself stay in the feeling too long that someone knew that. The candles had burned down almost a third of the way when she heard a voice beside her. "Excuse me." She turned. A man was standing at the edge of her table. Mid-30s, brown hair, a short neat beard, wearing a denim jacket over a gray t-shirt, the kind of clothes that suggested he had made some effort without trying to look like he had. He had the slightly tired, slightly warm look of someone who spent a lot of his time taking care of someone else. Beside him stood a little girl of about 6 or 7, blonde hair and uneven pigtails that he had clearly done himself, wearing a pink cardigan over a teal shirt, holding a small handmade card with a red flower drawn on the front in what was obviously crayon. The man was smiling. Not the careful sorry smile, just a regular smile, slightly uncertain around the edges, like a person who had decided to do something and wasn't completely sure it was going to go well. "I'm sorry to interrupt," he said. "My daughter." He glanced down at the girl who was looking at Claire with a complete unfiltered directness that only very young children and very honest people can manage. "She noticed your birthday cake and she wanted to give you this." He nudged the little girl gently. The girl stepped forward and held out the card. On the front was the red crayon flower. Inside, Claire would later see it said "Happy Birthday" in large careful letters with a lopsided star in each corner. She made it at the kids' table in the back. The man said, "They have crayons and paper. She's been working on it for about 10 minutes. He paused. I told her you might want your privacy, but she said the lady looked lonely. The little girl said with a matter-of-fact accuracy of someone who had not yet learned that you weren't supposed to say that. The man closed his eyes for exactly 1 second. Emma, it's true, Emma said without defensiveness. Simply. Claire looked at the card in Emma's outstretched hand. She looked at the girl's face, those clear, serious eyes that were waiting to see what Claire would do. Not with pity, just with the open attention of a child who believed completely that what she was doing was the right thing. Claire took the card. Thank you, Emma, she said. This is the most beautiful card I've received today. Emma nodded, satisfied, as if this confirmed something she had already known. Claire looked up at the man. I'm Claire. Jake, he said. And then with the careful hopefulness of someone who was not entirely sure of the answer, but had decided to ask anyway, can we join you? You shouldn't have to sit alone on your birthday, and Emma already ate her dinner, so she won't steal your cake. He paused. Probably. I might have a small piece, Emma said seriously. Something loosened in Claire's chest. Not dramatically. Not all at once. Just the way a window opens on the first warm day of spring. The air comes in before you've even fully decided to let it. As Claire said, please sit down. Jake pulled out the chair across from her. Glancing first, she noticed at the space around the table, making sure there was room. Doing it so naturally that it didn't feel like accommodation. And Emma climbed into the chair beside him, Claire's throat, still holding her crayon seriously as if she might need to make additional art at any moment. How old are you? Emma asked. 34, Claire said. Emma considered this. That's a lot of candles, Emma. Jake said there are only 4, Claire said. The bakery was being optimistic. Jake laughed. A real one surprised out of him. And Claire felt something she hadn't felt in a very long time. Not happiness exactly, something simpler. The specific feeling of having made someone laugh when you didn't expect to. They talked not about big things, not at first. Emma explained at some length why her pigtails were uneven. Her father had done them wrong, but she had decided not to tell him because he had tried very hard and she didn't want to hurt his feelings. And she said this while her father was sitting right there listening with the expression of a man who had just learned something new about his daughter. Jake said they came to Harbor Table on the first Saturday of every month. It was Emma's choice. She liked the bread basket, which came with 3 different kinds of butter, which she considered an important feature in a restaurant. They had started the tradition 8 months ago after his divorce had finalized, and he and Emma had moved into their apartment nearby, and he had decided they needed something consistent, something to look forward to. Traditions matter, he said simply without self-pity. Yes, Claire said. They do. She told him about the accident. Not the whole story, not yet, but enough. A driver who ran a red light on a Wednesday afternoon in November 2 years ago. The surgery, the months of rehabilitation, the slow, hard process of rebuilding a life around a body that moved through the world differently now. Jake listened the way good listeners do, not rushing to fill the silences, not reaching immediately for the silver lining, not telling her she was brave or inspiring, which were the 2 words she had come to dread above almost all others. He just listened. And when she finished, he said, "That's a lot to carry." "It is," she said. "You came out tonight anyway," he said. "I wasn't going to let it beat me," she said. He nodded slowly. "I know that feeling." Emma had fallen asleep in the chair by the time the server came to take the dessert plates. Her head tilted against the back of the chair with the boneless ease of a sleeping child, the crayon still loosely in her hand. Jake looked at her with a particular expression that parents have when their children are asleep. That mix of exhaustion and love so complete it sits on the face like weather. "I should get her home," he said, but he didn't move immediately. "Thank you," Claire said, "for stopping. You didn't have to." "She would never have forgiven me if I hadn't," he said, nodding toward Emma. Then more quietly, "And I think I would have regretted it, too." He wrote his number on the back of the paper kids menu. Emma's crayon, which she had released in her sleep, and slid it across the table. "In case you want company for the next one," he said. "You shouldn't have to do birthdays alone." Claire looked at the number, then at him, then Claire's throat, at Emma still sleeping. The uneven pigtails her father had done wrong because he was trying. "Same to you," she said. She watched them leave. Jake carrying Emma over one shoulder, the little girl's arm hanging limp with sleep, her pink cardigan slightly askew. At the door he turned once briefly and raised his hand. Claire raised hers. Then she looked at the birthday card on the table. The red crayon flower, the lopsided stars, the large careful letters that said happy birthday as if they meant it completely. She looked at the 4 candles burned all the way down now, small pools of wax on the frosting. She hadn't made a wish this year. She hadn't needed to. Something had already found her, the way the best things do, not because she had wished hard enough or waited long enough or been patient enough, but simply because a little girl with crayon-stained fingers had looked across a restaurant and seen a person who deserved to be seen and had done something about it. That, Claire thought, gathering her things and preparing to wheel herself back out into the night was enough. That was more than enough. That was everything.